YouTube, how we doing, family? It's your boy, Yo! And there's another episode of Yo Hoops. We go through every NBA game every day. Today's Wednesday, March 19th, and we have an 11-game NBA card. I'm going to walk you through every game, let you know which sides I like, and stick around, because I have two highlighted selections for today. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your favorite games in the comment section below. Without further ado, let me get into today's recap. Recapping yesterday, we did drop our highlighted play of the day. We took the Cleveland Cavaliers laying 3 points in LA against the LA Clippers. The Clippers won the second half by 18 points to ultimately win the game 132 to 119. The Clips had 4 players score 20 plus points. They hooped at home. We're now 12-11 against the spread on highlighted plays in March, but I'm ready to go on a win streak and get back in that win column. Without further ado, let me get into today's games. In our first matchup of the evening, we have the Dallas Mavericks in Indiana taking on the Indiana Pacers. Pacers are laying 10.5 points, and the total is 234. Both teams come into this one banged up, but of course the situation is way worse for the Mavericks. They're missing a majority of their team. PJ Washington will go here, though. On the Pacers side, Jarris Walker, Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese Halliburton are all questionable. The Pacers have been playing banged up over their last few games, though. We just saw them beat the Timberwolves outright in Minnesota as 12-point underdogs, and all of these guys didn't play in that one. Here, I think they have no problem airing out the banged-up Mavs team. The Pacers currently sit in the 4th spot in the East, just a half game ahead of the Bucks and Pistons in 5th and 6th, respectively. I expect them to be locked in here. We're taking the Pacers laying the 10.5 as our first highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Houston Rockets in Orlando taking on the Orlando Magic. Rockets are laying 2.5 points, and the total is 209.5. This is going to be a defensive bout. I expect a low final score in this one. I always tell you guys, the Rockets run hot and cold. They can win games by 20 plus, or they can lose games outright to the worst teams in the league. They did come through in overtime, but they almost lost outright as 16-point favorites against the Philadelphia 76ers G League team in their last outing. I don't know if you guys forgot, but the Magic are still in the thick of the playoff race in the East. It's unlikely that they make a secured playoff spot, but they are 6 games behind the Pistons for the 6th spot in the East. They're currently in the 8th spot. I think this line tells us what we need to know. We're taking the Magic plus the 2.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Detroit Pistons in Miami taking on the Miami Heat. Pistons are laying 4.5 points, and the total is 218.5. I was surprised to see the Pistons as such short favorites here. They come into this one at full strength, but it looks like the Heat have cleared some of their injury report as well. Andrew Wiggins and Alec Burks are questionable, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see both of them go. I want to see an angle for Miami, but Detroit has played the better basketball all season. The Heat are just 5-6 against the spread as home underdogs, while the Pistons are 10-3 against the spread as road favorites. Like I said, they've hooped this season. No need to overcomplicate this one for me. We're taking the Pistons laying the 4.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the New Orleans Pelicans in Minnesota taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. Wolves are laying 13 points, and the total is 227.5. Yes, the Pelicans are still banged up. Yes, the Timberwolves are back at full strength. And yes, I'm fading the Timberwolves at home. As home favorites, the Wolves are now 10-20 against the spread on the season. They do win games, but they run into problems laying these huge spreads. I fell into the trap recently, too. We took the Wolves laying 8 points against the Pacers 2 days ago. Everyone ended up being ruled out for the Pacers, and they still won the game outright on the money line. This isn't my favorite game on the board by any means, but I do have to lean towards the Pelicans plus the 13 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the New York Knicks in San Antonio taking on the San Antonio Spurs. Knicks are laying 9 points, and the total is 227.5. The Knicks are still without Jalen Brunson, but we already know the injuries for the Spurs have been the real story this season. Of course, Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox are done for the season, but here, Charles Bassey and David Duke Jr. are both out as well. Jordan McLaughlin is listed as questionable. I can't even see an angle for the Spurs. They're effectively out of the play-in race, And really, they should be focused on tanking for next year. The Knicks have looked decent without Jalen Brunson, and I do think they have enough to win this one by margin. We're taking the Knicks laying the 9 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Philadelphia 76ers in Oklahoma City taking on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thunder are laying 12 points, and the total is 226.5. Of course, this would typically be an easy 20-plus point win for the Thunder, but they do come into this one extremely banged up. Ousmane Dieng, Lou Dort, Jalen Williams, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Alec Dukas, and AJ Mitchell are all rolled out for the Thunder. The Sixers are extremely banged up as well, but they've been playing like that for some time now. They look competitive in their last game against the Rockets, and that game was in Houston with the Rockets at full strength. I do think the Thunder win this game, but in my opinion, 12 points is too much to lay with over half the team ruled out. I more see this as a game where the Thunder are down at some point and they come back to win by something like 5 or 6 points. It's a lean at best, but I do lean towards the Sixers plus the 12 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Washington Wizards in Utah taking on the Utah Jazz. Jazz are laying 5 points, and the total is 234.5. Both sides come into this one banged up. For the Wizards, Marcus Smart, Malcolm Brogdon, Chris Middleton, Corey Kispert, and Bilal Coulibaly are all ruled out. Jordan Poole is doubtful, and Keyshawn George is questionable. On the Jazz side, Walker Kessler, John Collins, Mihailuk, Jaden Springer, and KJ Martin are all rolled out. While I do lean towards the Jazz, I'm looking at the under. These are two of the bottom 10 offenses in the league. They only average a combined 220 points. With so many bucket getters being out, I think we cruise under this total. We're taking the Jazz and Wizards under 234.5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Chicago Bulls in Phoenix taking on the Phoenix Suns. Suns are laying 6 points, and the total is 234.5. The Bulls have been playing spoiler recently. They've won 4 of their last 5 games and have covered against the spread in their last 6 straight. We already know the Suns are a generational disappointment. As home favorites, they're now 8-15-1 against the spread on the season. The Suns are 1 game back from the last play-in spot in the West, so they do need to win this game. But with the Bulls' current form, they've moved into the 9th spot in the East, now playing with purpose themselves. I like the way the Bulls have looked, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if they have a chance to win this one outright down the stretch. We're taking the Bulls plus the 6 as our second highlighted selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers in Sacramento taking on the Sacramento Kings. Cavs are laying 5 points, and the total is 235.5. The Cavs come into this one on the second leg of a back-to-back, traveling from LA to Sacramento. They laid an egg last night against the Clippers. They really looked dead in the second half of that game. Here, on no rest with travel, I do think we see some tired legs from Cleveland. The thing is, Sabonis is now out again for a couple weeks with an ankle sprain, and with no true big presence, I don't know if the Kings can keep up. As road favorites, the Cavs are now 18-10 against the spread on the season, third best in the league, so this has been a profitable spot for them. As home underdogs, the Kings are 0-5 against the spread on the season, worst in the entire NBA in this spot. I can see the Kings getting up for this one, but I'm not expecting Cleveland to fumble 2 games in a row. We're taking the Cavs laying the 5 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our next matchup, we have the Denver Nuggets in Los Angeles taking on the Los Angeles Lakers. Nuggets are laying 2 points, and the total is 233.5. There's a lot of injury report manipulation going on in this one. For the Lakers, LeBron James and Rui Hachimura are still out, and Luka Doncic is probable. On the Nuggets side, Christian Braun, Jamal Murray, and Jokic are all questionable, then Aaron Gordon is probable. I need to know who's going for the Nuggets, but assuming everyone questionable goes on both sides, I would have to lean towards Denver. The Lakers have played well recently, but a lot of guys are playing way above their pay grade. I can't expect 25 points a night from Austin Reeves and 20 from Jackson Hayes. They have seemed to hit their stride at home in crypto, but without LeBron, I do expect the other shoe to drop at some point. This is more one I'll be watching as a fan, but I do lean towards the Nuggets laying the 2 as our next selection of today. Let's move. In our last and final matchup of the evening, we have the Memphis Grizzlies in Portland taking on the Portland Trailblazers. Grizzlies are laying 4.5 points, and the total is 235.5. Both injury reports are concerning coming into this one. For the Grizzlies, Ja Morant, Santi Aldama, Zion Poland, and Lamar Stevens are all ruled out. On the Blazers side, Robert Williams III, DeAndre Ayton, Jeremy Grant, and Jabari Walker are all ruled out. Then Toumani Camara is questionable. Both teams have been proficient in this spot, but this close to the playoffs, I expect the Grizzlies to be locked in. Second through fifth place in the West are all within one game, and the Grizzlies currently sit in the fifth spot. This is a winnable game, and they need it to propel them in the standings. I'm not necessarily in a rush to bet this one, but I am taking the Grizzlies laying the 4.5 as our last and final selection of the evening. And that's going to conclude today's video. Thank you so much for tuning in, guys. We're now on a little losing skid on our highlighted plays, but I'm ready to get right today. I'm ready to stack a win and get back in that win column. Let's go 2-0 on our highlighted today. I greatly appreciate the support always, guys. I do this every day for free, so please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy, Yo! And until the next one, I'ma catch y'all. Peace.